Hi, so welcome back to Real Auto Reports here on this pretty blustery day. So we decided that we would change up our little review intro here for you because today we have the Real First Impressions video edition on this 2014 Infiniti Q60. And this is not a car we wanted to miss doing a review on for you, so we changed it up a little bit, and we'll dive in here, give you the walk around, but we'll have to do it as a voiceover this time around. So let's dive in. All right, so as I said, we need to do this voiceover walk around. So first we're going to look at the front here. Now, the thing about the Q60 from a interest perspective is that this vehicle really hasn't changed all that much from the previous generation, because it used to be called the G37 Coupe, and we have their at a glance here in front of us. And what you're going to notice from a first impressions perspective is that this front end is pretty similar to the previous G37 Coupe, but because they redesigned the sedan, we now have the Q50 and Q60, and with the coupe we have the Q60 Coupe. So we also have the Q60 Coupe S, and that is actually what we have here today. So this does have the rims and the tire package and the sports tuning and all of that, so it will be the more aggressive looking car, but from the front here you can't really tell that. So you have your typical Infiniti grille. Notice the adaptive cruise radar box down there in the lower right hand part of the front grille as we look at the car. Of course, you have your high intensity discharge headlights and all of that. Now, if we move around to the side, we're going to see the profile of this car, and we'll talk about this coupe from that perspective. From the side, what we have, well, is a pretty interesting coupe profile. I've always liked the way these cars look. They're understated, they're tasteful, they're a nice two-door body with some interest, some curves. You have very nice haunches in the back and a front fender flared up over the rise of the hood, so actually when you're driving and you look down the hood, you can see the fender rises and see exactly where the front right and front left of the car are. Notice our large wheels here in the sports package style. They are going to be nice for looks, but as you might be able to see here in some of the pictures, they do get chipped fairly easily. So you are going to, from a first impressions perspective, need to weigh that, because curbing one of these is going to be fairly easy because you have low profile tires and you don't have any rubber wrap to prevent them from scraping on the curbs or other debris out on the road. So that is one negative. Now notice you have body colored door handles, and again, because the Q50 and 60 sedan is radically different now, the coupe kind of is lagging behind in its styling. It's not really all that different from the previous generation. So I think we should expect Infiniti to do something cool with these cars. It's just not for 2014. So if you need to buy something now, this is going to be a pretty powerful and good looking coupe, especially from the side here. It's got very classic lines, and I like the way it looks a lot. I've always liked the G Coupe, now in the Q60. From the back, what you're going to find is, again, pretty normal rear end of these coupes from Infiniti, but you're going to have the different badging. Of course, we have rear park assist with this vehicle, which is nice considering that it does have some pretty good blind spots due to the rake of the rear windshield. The rear back seat, the back seat, I should say, is not intrusive. It doesn't have headrests that are intruding into the view in normal mode, but it is a hard vehicle to see out of from the rear. So you can see how slim and low this back end is, well integrated into the design. I like it a lot. Now, it did take me a while to remember where the button is to release the trunk, and that is to that left side. Look at the left side tail light. There's a little chrome button. That is where you press to open the trunk. Otherwise, you're going to fumble around for a while, and you're going to keep trying to press the rear camera, which it does have as well. And you would expect at this price point in these luxury sports coupes. Now, one of the things that we should talk about here is the trunk space. The trunk space on this car is not going to be great. In fact, it's going to be pretty inflexible, all things being equal, because it, well, is a pretty narrow trunk opening, all things being equal. So yes, you do have some flexibility with it and some depth, but it's going to be a lot like the Chevrolet Camaro from the perspective of it being a real sports coupe. I mean, this is a car that you wouldn't want to take out and try to put all of your luggage in and go to, you know, the airport. Now, can you get some good stuff in there? Yes, you can get some good shopping and things like that. And let's face it, you're not buying one of these vehicles to go out and shop at the shopping mall with. You're buying it to drive. And with these 19-inch alloy wheels, you're really getting a pretty cool car, all things being equal. So we'll give it a pardon on the trunk room. Now, from the interior perspective, that's where I think we're going to have, well, the least to say, really. But, well, let's jump inside. All right, so here we are in the interior, and we're going to show you some interior shots of this vehicle. But what I think you can see from where I'm sitting here is that this is a very sports coupe driving position. You're cradled down here into these heavily bolstered seats in the Q60S that we have here, and you have nice layout, steering wheel controls, leather wrapped wheel, soft touch around the vehicle that they've added to the dash and everything over the years, so it's not all hard plastic. The other thing to note is this: the whole gauge cluster and wheel move for the tilt and telescopic wheel. So the tilt, you know, moves this, and the telescopic moves the actual steering column in and out. But the whole gauge cluster will move so that your vision is never really obstructed when you are driving. Now, you have memory seats as well. You have the controls down here. The mirrors are a little hard to use because of the rake, but you get used to it really, and you don't adjust the mirrors all that much once you get going. If your garage door opener is up in the mirror, your sunroof, of course, it is a small format sunroof because of the size of the car. Now, what I would like to point out also about the interior here from a first impressions is this is about as low as I can get. I just lowered the seat, and you can see that I can just barely, I can't even get a fist above my head, and now I'm sitting like on the floor of the car. And for some people, that's going to bother them. For me, I don't mind. I like sports cars. But I noticed that my passengers, especially my taller passengers, this car is a tight interior. It is a tight coupe, and that's something to keep in mind as you are shopping around for it. It definitely has high door lines, and you do sit down in here very race car style, sports car style too, and it's not going to be comfortable for everybody. And the back seat is usable. I did get our passengers in here to test, so you can get a 6'2" person in the front and a 5'2" person in the back, or vice versa. It is going to be harder for your larger passengers, especially people with more of a football player build, wider in the back. You know, a good sized guy is going to find this car very tight because I'm not that wide, and my back barely fits between these bolsters that are in these front seats. But there is some nice detail like the stitching, and you can move the seat forwards and backwards here in the passenger seat right here from the button, and that you have to do, I found from a first impressions, because you cannot, it folds the seat with the lever that's back here over your shoulder, but it doesn't slide it forward automatically so people can get in and out. So you have to do it with the power. And then when you want to fold the seat back, if you have it all the way forward with it tilted forward, it gets stuck up here on the front windshield. So some of the ergonomics are not great in this vehicle, but it does have heated seats, a snow mode, all-wheel drive in the model that we're testing here with the Q60S. So if you put some decent snow tires on this thing, it will get around in the winter months and it won't leave you stranded. Now, you leave it on the summer tires, and no amount of all-wheel drive will get you out of a slippery situation. So let's take a look under the hood and see what we find there. All right, so under the hood, what you're going to find is the 3.7 liter VQ Series V6 with the variable valve event and lift. It is rated at 330 horsepower and has 270 foot-pounds of torque. So that's not bad all and all. What we were seeing while driving this vehicle out on the freeway was a general fuel economy of about 23 to 24. So 23.2 was the number the computer came back with, and that's over 380 miles in this vehicle. So, I mean, you have a high power V6, pretty standard. It used to be called the G37 for that very reason, and I don't think that this is really going to surprise too many people who are fans of the and now the Q60 Coupe. And it's just a hard thing to kind of get used to saying is the Q60, and we have the Q60S here in the all-wheel drive. Now, you do have a 7-speed automatic transmission in this particular car we're testing. You can get a 6-speed manual transmission, but in the automatic we have the driver sport mode, which is the DS mode with downshift rev matching, and you can get the paddle shifters, which we do indeed have in this vehicle. It is a more rear biased car, so the system can send 100% of the power to the rear wheels, and they say that's to preserve the sporty characteristics. It's not going to be great on fuel, but you wouldn't expect it to be at 330 horsepower and a sport coupe. All right, so from a driving perspective, hitting the road in this 2014 Infiniti Q60S with all-wheel drive, the first thing you notice is that it has a weighted steering. It is precise. It is a nice vehicle to drive. It has good power, but the thing you're really going to notice when you first get into this car and get going is the noise. It's got quite the growl to it, and it has good performance coming out of this 330 horsepower V6 3.7 liter engine. I think that the biggest thing about this vehicle, about the way it drives, is with the S package, is it's going to be fairly stiff. It's not going to absorb bumps in a comfortable way. It's going to absorb it in a sports car way, and that is okay. We don't mind that at all. It corners very well. The 19-inch wheels probably aren't ideal for performance driving, but the all-wheel drive and the sports summer tires that are on this vehicle, and the aggressive 7-speed automatic transmission with the sport mode and the paddle shifters create a pretty nice driving experience in this vehicle. And well, we'll give you more details as we go down the road, but the thing you need to know for the moment is that it drives well, it handles well, it's generally comfortable, though you will find that the narrowness of the seat, at least even for someone my size, does grind on you a little bit when you first start to drive it. So well, we'll see how we feel after more mileage, but well, you know, that's what the real video, the real review is about. We'll have the real wrap up coming up next. So that's the real video, the real review on this 2014 Infiniti Q60S with the all-wheel drive. This is a pretty cool vehicle, although I think from a real first impressions perspective, we would have liked to have seen it redone if they were going to change the brand. I don't know why they didn't keep it as the G37. It's still got that 3.7 liter, doesn't have a new body really, doesn't have a new interior, and just doesn't seem quite as cool as the all-new Q50 Q60 sedan. So I don't know, it's a legacy design, and it's one that we liked when it was the G37 and the G37S. I think being the Q60S now doesn't really buy it a whole lot, because it's basically the previous generation car. At least that's our first impressions. It's still a really nice car to drive, though. It's got good road manners. It has really good performance. It has decent fuel economy at, well, 18 to 25 miles per gallon and 20 miles per gallon combined. And indeed, we saw about 23 with combined driving both city highway. So I, you know, from a first impressions perspective, that's not bad. However, I still think that it would be difficult for me to choose this car over other vehicles out there that have been redesigned more recently. But these sports coupes are harder to come by, so your choices are not all that plentiful either. So it is definitely one you want to put on your shopping list, and you definitely want to stay tuned for more reviews that are coming right here from Real Auto Reports. I'm Jonathan McGrew, right here from Real Auto Ranch, and we will see you down the road.